framers knew that the Constitution would need to be amended from time to time. They knew that they couldn't possibly cover every governmental structure or liberty protection issue at that time, at one time at all. So they wrote Article 5, but they actually added to it, which is a different way of proposing amendments. First, it was by the Congress themselves, and George Mason thought it was important to add that the state legislatures have this function as well. So you could go with either one. He added this second way about 2 days before the Constitution was finalized on September 15th. So he rushed these changes over to James Madison, and he had to get them all ratified and everything, just like everybody else did. We began with the Bill of Rights, and Congress added another 17. That's how we have our amendment process right now. But most of those have been made, I think all of them have been made right with the Congress. So there haven't been any made by citizens at all. So this is how it works. We need to start using the second method initiated by Convention of States. That's this movement right here. Two-thirds vote, and then a ratification of 3/4 of the states. So the states themselves can actually get on this and make some needed changes that are going to help restrain the government, add a few more layers of protection against government, and also another layer of checks and balances, which involves state legislatures too. So it's really good, and it's very necessary, because the central government is never, they are never going to make any kind of law that is going to curtail their own power. They're not going to vote themselves a pay cut. They're not going to vote themselves out of office. They're not going to vote themselves less power. They're just not going to do it. So it's up to us to get together in a convention of states. It's not a constitutional convention. We've already had one. It's a convention of states. If anybody calls it a constitutional convention, they haven't read Mark's book. I think this one? Yes, this book right here. They haven't read that book, and they don't understand the difference. There was a difference anyway. I mean, Mark didn't invent it. He just brought it out into the open. So, very important. We've got to go through that process, and maybe we can repeal some very bad things, because a lot of bad things have happened under the kind of government, and not going through with using the states to do things. Let's see. We also would have a very good way of reversing some very bad Supreme Court decisions. I think Mark, in his book, he's got a way of repealing or overturning any Supreme Court ruling within 5 years, something like that, by so many percent or so many thirds or something like that in his book. I have to look at it again, but it's very good. I mean, imagine how useful that would be. We would be able to stop things like Dred Scott, which is 1857, ruled that slaves could never become citizens even in a free state. Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896, which was segregation laws. Korematsu, which happened in 1944 with FDR. Everybody thinks he's so great. Japanese American citizens detained in concentration camps. It's just terrible. We could have been there, even though it was just a very short amendment. We could have at least been there to give them pause on what they decide to present to the states and force down our throats. There are many other wonderful amendments that we can propose and eventually pass. They must all have the same purpose: to protect and enforce our natural rights by taking our power away from the central government. This can include repeal of some very bad amendments as well. I'm going to end it like this: stay informed, be active, look into Convention of States. Don't be afraid to disagree with anyone, and be ready to defend your position. They're pretty hostile, some of them. Most are just like you and I, are only curious about another point of view. Others are hopelessly lost and need guide. And some are progressives at heart and have a mind to destroy your freedom and mind, because they think they're smarter than everybody else. These are the intellectuals. I call them pseudo-intellectuals. Read the Constitution, but you can't just read the Constitution. You've got to refer to the Constitution, because you can never know it just one time. You've got to refer to it once you've read it. reading the Constitution to say you know it. Nobody knows it after that. You have to keep referring to it. Like, I read the Constitution, not I have read the Constitution. Watch the movie John Adams. That's a very good movie. I recommend it several times. It's got Paul Giamatti in it. YouTube has great resources, as well as also learn about the founding in American history. They're not teaching this in school as much anymore. I like Prager University videos myself for social topics. Give you a lot of good ammunition to fight liberals on that. They have great facts and arguable logic. I also get a lot of my information from my favorite author and conservative giant, Mark Levin. You can see my place is kind of set up as a little bit like his. Took a little inspiration, from his, but it seemed like I had the things, and I just decided to set them down here, and they look good. So thank you, Mark, for that. Thank you for your books. You do a very, very nice job. Let's see. I've also got Written Out of History by Mike Lee. Got that one again. So I'll just lay them all out here. These are the ones that the book came from. Let's see that one, or this. That's what this presentation I should say comes from. Let's see. Yes, this one a little bit. This deserves its own show, really. And this one. These are just supplements. They're very good books on their own, and they've got some very good information on there, but I can't get to it all today. That's this one. So there we go. Let's see. You could also read on your own. You could read things like John Locke, Second Treatise of Government. That's where our Declaration of Independence comes from. I talked about that. Our natural laws, property rights, things like that. That's John Locke right there. That's our Declaration of Independence, which I said before is the Constitution is the governing expression of that. And the Declaration of Independence also sets up all the things that the Constitution is then going to enforce in its writing. You've also got Spirit of the Laws by Hobbs, the Leviathan. Charles de Montesquieu wrote Spirit of the Laws, Hobbs, the Leviathan, and we got Alexis de Tocqueville too, which I referred to him. That's Democracy in America. And to understand every line in the Constitution, when you're a conservative, you look at the Constitution and you try to pick it apart, you try to understand the language, and when you do that, you have to refer to, if there's a Federalist paper that's associated with it, look for it, read it, that's the intent, and if there's not, you have to just do the best you can. You can't jump all the way to the left, say, no, it must be this. You've got to take small steps, and say, hey, this is closest without going too far. Some people take that as an opportunity to jump clear over to the left and say, no, I'm going to implement this. No, you can't do that. So, yeah, like I said, reading the Constitution once never means you know it. But you have to continually read it. If someone says to you that that's unconstitutional, like we hear all the time, Nancy Pelosi's saying it, Bernie Sanders is saying it all the time, Chuck Schumer's saying it, you just have to say, wait a minute, how, what? What's constitutional? What's unconstitutional? And you can actually, if you know enough, go through and find out if it actually is or not. And they could just be blowing smoke. Most of the time they are. Or they're just getting it all wrong. So, you can do a lot of your research online. You can find all these things. I don't have my cell phone up here with me, but I've got the Constitution loaded on my cell phone. I've also got the Federalist Papers loaded on my cell phone, so I've always got it with me, so I can always refer to it. But I hope you liked this presentation, and it took a little bit of work, but it's here. And thank you, Bella, for working on that. The cats are here all over the place, so let's have a cat. Bring her over here. No, come on. All right. Bye-bye.